made lurid and false claims about the royal family, which played on her fears and fueled paranoia, displayed woeful incompetence when investigating complaints and concerns about the programme.
The courtroom was silent, but the tension was deafening. Prince William stepped into the witness box, not as heir to the throne, but as a son with a mission. In his hands, clutched tightly, was his mother's diary, Diana's private truth, finally seeing the light. Across the room, Queen Camilla sat poised and unreadable, the very figure Diana once feared. "My mother lived in fear," William began, his voice low but steady. "In silence because of her." Gasps filled the chamber. The press froze mid-keystroke. The weight of decades fell on everyone in that room. And then, as he read the words Diana had written in secret, "Camilla has more power over Charles than anyone sees," the room changed. This wasn't royal drama. This was reckoning. William's voice cracked, not with weakness, but with history breaking through generations of silence. She wasn't unstable. She was silenced. This wasn't just about one family. It was about power, legacy, and the truth buried beneath the crown. The monarchy may survive, but not without facing its most painful truth yet. Stay with us, because what happens next will shake the very core of royalty. William takes the stand. The courtroom fell silent as Prince William rose and walked to the witness box, Diana's leather-bound diary in hand. Camilla sat across the aisle, her posture poised yet tense. With a steady voice that carried a mix of sadness and resolve, William declared, "My mother lived in fear, in silence. Because of her." The room trembled. Cameras zoomed in. Journalists leaned in forward, and even the judge's brows lifted. It felt less like testimony, more like confession. The future and the past converging in that moment. William reviewed the diary's chain of custody, reaffirming its authenticity. He paused, letting the diary's presence underscore the gravity of what he was about to reveal. This is more than words on paper," he continued. "It's a window into her hidden fears, an echo of what she couldn't publicly say." His tone was haunting yet precise, each syllable carrying weight. He detailed how Diana's private pain mirrored the public facade, noting that this diary held clues to her suffering, clues long overlooked. The court felt it. This was more than royal drama. It was a moment of reckoning. With the stage set and the diary in hand, the weight of that private confession begs scrutiny. Now, attention shifts to the heart of the proof, the diary passage itself, where William brings Diana's quiet warnings into the open, turning intimate journals into courtroom evidence. Reading the diary passage. William opened the diary to a marked page and read aloud, "Camilla has more power over Charles than anyone sees." A flutter rippled through the gallery. Camilla, unmoved outwardly, visibly shifted in her seat. Journalists exchanged silent glances. This wasn't gossip. It was a direct quote from Diana herself. William's tone quivered with emotion, but never broke as he continued. "My mother sensed a weight on my father that she couldn't talk about." This sentence, it wasn't casual, it was warning. He described the diary's context. Late-night entries filled with anxiety and sorrow, pages echoing Diana's sense of isolation. Each line wasn't just scribbles, it carried her heart, William explained. He emphasized that the diary was her true voice, a voice dampened by palace protocol and public expectation. That moment underscored Diana's dual existence, beloved public figure and silently suffering private woman. Her warning wasn't just emotional, it was prophetic. Power dynamics shifting behind closed doors. Now that Diana's words have echoed in the courtroom, The focus turns back to her lived experience, her childhood. William ensures we remember where Diana drew her strength from and how that shaped his own journey. Flashbacks to protected childhood. William's voice softened as he guided the court through memory-laced flashbacks. He painted a vivid picture: Diana's protective hand on his shoulder during crowded charity events, her whisper of comfort amidst flashing cameras. He recalled evenings at Kensington, where her warmth masked deep worry. She held me close. It first us, he shared, not because she needed to, because she knew I needed it. The diary's warnings were rooted in a lifetime of vigilant love. He narrated specific moments: Diana deflecting intrusive paparazzi with a shield of grace, her arms enveloping her sons as she navigated scrutiny with poise. This was a mother's love forged under fire, constant and fierce. William emphasized how those memories became his moral compass, defending his mother's legacy and revealing the truth behind her smile. Her protective instinct transcended personal comfort. It became a lifetime lesson for her children, from tender memories to broader accountability. William shifts from childhood to consequences. His next point holds both family and media in his sights, as he revisits the BBC's role in shaping Diana's narrative and the fallout that followed. The BBC Panorama fallout. Prince William's tone sharpened as he turned from personal memories to larger forces that shaped his mother's life. Holding the diary firmly, he reminded the court of the Lord Dyson Report's finding. BBC producers used deceitful tactics to trap Diana during the 1995 Panorama interview. He quoted directly, "The deceitful way the interview was obtained substantially influenced what my mother said," he said, referencing the report. Cameras panned to Camilla, her face just as stoic as ever. William continued, "It wasn't just one report, it became a weapon against her." He outlined how repeated invasions of privacy turned into paranoia and deepened her sense of isolation. The court watched as he connected this betrayal to Diana's diary entries on Camilla's influence. This program didn't just mislead her, it helped shape a narrative that reshaped her world, he stated. Then, with a quiet firmness, he addressed accountability. Panorama should never air again unless they face their failures. The courtroom stilled. It wasn't merely a request, it was a demand for institutional reform, echoing beyond royal walls. As William exposes media malpractice, the narrative shifts to heart of the matter: Camilla's alleged influence. With media and the firm under scrutiny, William now turns the spotlight on the woman named in those diary passages, moving the story from context to confrontation. Accusations against Camilla. William steadied himself before confronting the courtroom. He carefully laid out the diary entries again, stating, "Diana saw patterns, decisions she couldn't influence." He recalled moments when Camilla's influence over Charles seemed to eclipse Diana's role: late-night palace council, eased public duties, subtle yet unmistakable decisions. He posited this influence created a power shift that Diana felt first and fought silently. Next, he described specific incidents: Diana's exclusion from key meetings, her discomfort at Camilla's dominant presence. "My mother's diary captures her pain when she whispered, 'I'm disappearing,'" William told the court. Each quote reinforced how a private document became proof of that power dynamic. William paused, then delivered a solemn vow: "I won't let my mother's legacy be rewritten to fit someone else's narrative." His family stood to hear not just a rebuttal, it was a declaration of defense for Diana's name and place in history. Even in her absence, he spoke for her. With Camilla's influence laid bare, the courtroom attention shifts from personal grievance to institutional accountability. Now, William digs deeper into his mother's own words, moving from evidence to emotion, to reveal her true state of mind and the emotional cost she bore inside the palace. Emotional revelation. William's voice cracked as he leaned forward. She wasn't unstable. She was silenced, he announced softly. The courtroom responded with breath-held silence. For a moment, the layers of protocol melted away. He described Diana's pain, anxiety that kept her awake, fear of losing her children's future, isolation reinforced daily by palace conventions, and Camilla's public standing. He walked the court through passages where Diana detailed sleepless nights, cryptic references to whispers behind doors, and the fear that speaking out would cost her everything. "This diary is a map of her heartbreak," William said, his eyes glistening. "It shows a true woman, complex, courageous, and deeply wounded." Drawing the courtroom closer, William reminded them, "We're not talking about drama or scandal. We're talking about a woman whose emotional suffering became her burden alone." This wasn't storytelling, it was exposure, turning private pain into public reckoning. Moving beyond emotion, William now confronts the root of the matter: system-wide dynamics within the royal family. He pivots to palace structural issues, how power operates quietly, and why such wounds often stay hidden. Now, attention shifts from one woman's pain to the institution itself. Who decides, who protects, or silences, and how transparency may be the power shift and family tension. Prince William's tone strengthened as he carried the courtroom narrative deeper into the heart of the royal household. He made clear that Diana's diary wasn't just a personal record. It revealed systematic shifts in influence. He pointed to examples: Camilla's easing into more public responsibilities, behind-the-scenes policy decisions that bypassed Diana, and subtle sidelining at events. He stated the diary captures snapshots of an imbalance that grew over time. He explained how this shift caused fracture within the royal dynamic. It wasn't about Camilla individually. It was about how unchecked influence altered Charles and isolated Diana. This wasn't gossip, William said. It was a lived reality she wrote down in her own hand. As the courtroom held its breath, he tied personal pain to institutional flaws. When one voice becomes dominant, others are forced into silence. He reminded the court that his mother's role and agency were diminished not just emotionally, but structurally within the monarchy. He concluded this section by contextualizing the diary as more than memoir. It exposed a systemic issue. This imbalance didn't just hurt Diane personally, it undermined trust in how decisions were made at the highest level. His conviction wasn't only emotional, it was foundational to the future integrity of the monarchy. With power dynamics and internal fracturing now visible, the court turns to the broader public and historic importance of Diana's legacy. Having laid bare the intimate heartbreak and familial imbalances, William next argues that deeper reinvention is needed to preserve public trust. In the next section, he will use Diana's global influence and charitable work to illustrate why the royal family's future depends on honesty, not cover-ups, anchoring the stakes far above private drama. Historical context and public trust. William shifted focus from internal power struggles to Diana's global impact and the values she represented. He highlighted her groundbreaking charity work, her approachability, and her compassion, qualities that changed perceptions of the royal family worldwide. Her voice mattered beyond palace walls, he told the court, holding the diary aloft as proof that those values were overshadowed later. He argued that history wasn't just about tradition, but about meaning. If we cover up her story, we lose the moral foundation she restored. He urged that Diana's blueprint, her empathy and openness, should shape future monarchy, not be erased. William made the point that public trust isn't inherited, it's earned daily. He referenced poll trends showing declining confidence in royal transparency since Diana's death. When truth is buried, faith erodes, he cautioned. Protecting Diana's truth, he said, was vital for the monarchy's survival. He wrapped up by telling the courtroom, "We cannot claim to carry her legacy if we silence her." This wasn't about affection. It was about trust, transparency, and purpose. Upholding her memory meant restoring the values she lived, a turning point for the crown's future. Having addressed Diana's legacy and public expectations, William now grounds his argument in legal reality. With personal and institutional truths exposed, the diary moves from sentimental relic to legal evidence. The next phase asks, can private writings become courtroom proof? And will the courts, or Camilla, allow it? The stage is set for a pivotal moment where emotion and law converge, and the protective veil over royal life may finally lift. Diary as legal evidence. William solemnly introduced Diana's diary into the court record, sliding the leather-bound book onto the table. He explained its path, how it was secured, preserved, and authenticated by palace archivists. He emphasized the strong chain of custody and handwriting verification, making clear that this was more than anecdote. It was evidence. Legal professionals cited expert opinion. Private diaries can qualify as admissible evidence if properly authenticated and relevant. The court acknowledged the diary's relevance to the case. Its content spoke to real influence and possible suppression. William's calm explanation showed both reverence and determination. He supported this with testimony from archival staff, who confirmed the diary's integrity. Camilla's counsel questioned context, but couldn't dispute authenticity. William asserted that the diary's content, Diana's first-person account of silence and suppression, deserved weight in determining influence over Charles. The courtroom felt the magnitude. This wasn't just about family, it was about legal precedent. If a personal diary can shape royal affairs, then centuries of secrecy face undoing. William said, "This is not trespassing on privacy. It is justice for Diana." The courtroom paused, realizing a diary might change royal history. Tracing Diana's guardianship, William shifts focus from the diary to his mother's fierce independence as a guardian. He outlines her struggle in court to maintain privacy and protect her children from the suffocating royal bubble. He quotes from Elizabeth-era aides who recall Diana vetoing personnel and shielding William and Harry from tabloids. Reports confirm her attempts to influence Charles's parenting role. This wasn't just emotional care, it was purposeful defense of her boys. He recounts how Diana feared Camilla's growing presence would compromise that protection. Multiple aides confirmed Diana's quiet conversations warning against outside influence. William connects those fears directly to decisions made after Diana's death. Camilla's rising public role, Charles's evolving priorities, and diminishing trust in palace confidentiality. By recounting these specifics, William frames himself as a continuation of Diana's guardianship. "I stand here now because I learned from her example," he tells the court. He presents himself as the living legacy of her defense instincts. That foundational belief fuels his testimony and signals a deep commitment to preserving her vision. The courtroom absorbed every word. This isn't a son speaking. It's a guardian carrying forward an unfinished mission. William ends this section. "She fought for us then. I fight for her memory now." His voice is steady, rooted in conviction. Transition. 70 words. With both personal testimony and documentary evidence laid bare, William moves from familial legacy into legal contestation. The diary established influence. Now, the narrative shifts to the method of legal proof. The next scene shows Camilla's response and how her defense will challenge authenticity, relevance, and motive. A symmetrical clash between truth and reputation. If William's narrative holds, the palace walls may need more than emotional repair. They'll need structural reform. Camilla's response. As William exits the stand, Camilla's counsel rises with a poised, measured tone. He challenges William's interpretation, saying Camilla's role was ceremonial and pastoral, not manipulative. He emphasizes Charles's autonomy in decisions and insists Diana's diary reflects her own perceptions, not factual accounts. This frames William's evidence as emotionally colored, not legally binding. Camilla's team cites her philanthropic efforts, domestic abuse campaigns, cancer support, veterans' work, as evidence of character and public service. They argue these actions reflect genuine compassion, not power plays. Counsel stresses Camilla's consistent respect for Charles's hierarchy and palace protocol. They present testimonial quotes supporting her collaborative, not covert influence. They further deconstruct the diary's submission. Context is key, they argue. Those entries were private reflections, not manifestos. Camilla's defense will likely demand a full editorial explanation to properly understand tone, date, and audience. So while William highlights snippets, Camilla's counsel warns against extracting meaning without contextual framing. The rebuttal opens a rift: empathy and legacy versus privacy and motive. Camilla's legal team seeks to reframe the narrative not as dominance, but as dignified partnership. With that groundwork, the final legal sections are cued, where historical empathy collides with evidentiary scrutiny. Having heard both sides, William's plea for legacy and Camilla's defense of reputation, the narrative pivots to public reaction and legal fallout. Next, the court considers how the public sees this confrontation, as proof, betrayal, or something more tangled. Media and public sentiment now shape the courtroom's atmosphere, adding pressure beyond the bench. William's mission becomes not only legal, but also universally symbolic, and every reaction from the outside bears weight. Media and public reaction. As word of the courtroom showdown spreads, global media outlets pivot coverage into high alert. Headlines like "Son versus Stepmother in Court" dominate front pages. Social media splits between supporters of William's emotional transparency and defenders of Camilla's poised restraint. Hashtags such as Diana's Voice and #Camilla Defense trend internationally. Opinion polls show public trust in the monarchy dipping sharply. Only 42% now believe in its transparency. Younger audiences favor truth over tradition. Talk show hosts interpret William's testimony as a watershed moment. Choral commentators speculate that palace opaqueness no longer holds sway. Where once royal protocol silenced, now it provokes. Meanwhile, public intellectuals discuss constitutional implications. Can private diaries be used in defining royal influence? Ethics experts question whether evidence derived from personal confidences should shape living legacies. Academics host online panels about courting truth in monarchy, dissecting whether emotional proof equals moral authority. But traditionalists remain wary. They warn that public trials fracture unity, weaken tradition, and play into the tabloid narrative palace walls were built to contain. The courtroom drama mirrors sovereign vulnerability. The court of public opinion amplifies its echoes, setting the stage for what comes next. With public sentiment intensifying, attention now turns back to the courtroom, specifically to the legal panel and their weighing of evidence. We shift from media noise to judicial process. Will the judge allow the diary as evidence? Can Camilla's rebuttal clear doubt? Orders for further expert testimony and extensions loom as courts grapple with balancing privacy, evidence, and institutional safeguarding. The monarchy's legal imperative intersects next. legacy, or reform. After climactic testimony, the judge announces overnight deliberations. The courtroom falls silent, a historical pause signaling more than legal consequence. Behind closed doors, legal experts compare precedents. 18th century European courts once used diaries as evidence against monarchs. Now the British Crown stands under similar scrutiny. The court reserves judgment. Will Diana's diary remain part of the official record? Will Camilla's counsel succeed in removing it due to privacy concerns? Will William be allowed to cross-examine palace officials about palace decision-making tied to the diary's content? The questions point far beyond one family. Royal aides begin preparing briefing notes on potential outcomes. A public verdict, palace response, and official ceremonial adjustments. Charles's and William's teams huddle for strategy. Media scripts are drafted, and palace conservators ready Diana's diary for potential public display. The judge concludes, final ruling in 2 weeks. Court is adjourned. William leaves, dignified yet resolute. Camilla exits with careful composure. The royal future hangs in balance. The world waits. Will Diana's truth emerge as reform, or risk cementing another royal silence? When the final word was spoken, the silence in the courtroom spoke louder than any royal proclamation. Prince William had done the unthinkable, pulled back the velvet curtain of palace life to reveal a mother's pain and a monarchy's complicity. The diary, once hidden behind gilded gates, was now etched into legal record. Diana's voice had returned, not in whispers, but in full, undeniable force. Camilla never responded publicly, not a word. Her silence became a shield, one some saw as dignity, others as guilt. The firm stood rattled, the people divided. Some cried for justice, others clung to tradition. And at the center stood William, no longer just a future king, but a son carrying the weight of truth. He didn't just challenge a stepmother, he challenged the system that protected her. My mother deserved better, he had said. And now, the world was listening. The judge's verdict is yet to come. But whatever the ruling, history has already shifted. This trial has rewritten the way we see Diana, Camilla, and the modern monarchy. No longer can they hide behind palace walls or polite press releases. This was not just a trial. It was an awakening, a reckoning. And now, all eyes are on the crown.